So, the new Halloween content update for Killing Floor is upon us, in September, when it's not Halloween, and is only on PC. But regardless, I'm happy to say that this event, compared to the previous events this year, while not being as game-changing as the rest, it's definitely setting a new standard for the kind of quality that we should expect in the coming updates. So what's in the update itself? Well, the Halloween Horrors Monsters Masquerade update provides us with 1 new map, 4 new weapons, 6 achievements and some new cosmetics, when they're out in October that is. Normally the cosmetic side of things doesn't really get added until after the opt-in beta. And finally, with this being an event, we have some new challenges, and compared to the previous challenges, Tripwire have definitely stepped up their game. Now these challenges aren't really impossible, but they have a little bit of charm and style to them like the event challenges from the first game. Just like before, these challenges are specific to the new map, meaning stuff like killing Zeds, getting to a certain wave on Endless, and using some of the new traps in the new map. And the reward this time around is a little bit different when compared to what Tripwire normally offer. This time around, when you beat the challenges provided, you will unlock the MKB42 with a Halloween skin. But before anybody gets upset that they're locking away content behind challenges, it's worth noting 2 things. From now until December, the MKB42 is being set as a shared bit of content, meaning if somebody else in your game has already beaten the challenges, it'll access a shared content system, meaning that you can actually buy the weapon yourself via the trader while you're in game with them. However, if this isn't enough for you, the gun will then be available to everyone in the December update. Speaking of the new weapons though, we'll go in order of my favourite to least favourite. Not to say any of them are really bad, but this update has only been out for a couple of days and it's a beta, so I'll leave my final judgment when the tier 5 videos come out in October. So straight off the bat, with all puns intended, my favourite weapon so far has to be the Road Redeemer baseball bat. At first glance, you could pretty much just say that this is very similar to the katana, with a slightly slower swing rate but with a higher impact, meaning a heavier swing is definitely going to crank out more of a stumble and damage when compared to the blade. And I'll be honest, this thing is really great to play with. I'm already a fan of bashing heads in with a bat in any game, and finally having the ability to do this in Killing Floor is just a definite yes from me. One thing to keep in mind though with this weapon is that it's actually a crossover weapon with the game Road Redemption, another game published by Tripwire, and if you buy the game you not only get the baseball bat for Killing Floor 2, you also get the option to play as Hans and DJ Scully in that game when it comes out. And while yes I did buy it just for the baseball bat, I have actually sat down and played this game a little bit, and you know what? It's not bad. It's like Road Rash back in the day, but modernised, and if you're a fan of those games then you'd probably want to pick this up. All bats aside though, the next weapon was the one I was originally excited for, which is the MKB42, and this is your new tier 3 Commando weapon, sitting against the AK-12. From a brief look at it, you're looking at a slower fire rate with a higher stability. Damage wise, I'd say they're fairly similar though. However, with this update, the AK-12 has actually had a buff in the upgrade system, meaning that tier 5 might sway me more towards that in the sense of damage. But the MKB42 is just overall a satisfying gun to use. Plus the Halloween skin you get from this challenge makes it look like it's got a banana stock. But for me being a sucker for these kind of weapons, I'll probably end up using this a lot more than the AK-12 in the long run. Or maybe with the whole tier 5 thing I could use both. I'll have to tinker around with that one and get back to you though. But that will have to wait. There's still 2 weapons left on this list we have to go through, and going up a tier we've got the newly added tier 4 FN-FAL for the sharpshooter. Yeah, I didn't actually notice this the first time I was playing it as I was playing Commando, but the FN-FAL's new home is actually the sharpshooter rather than the Commando, which is a rather interesting decision honestly, especially since there's a tier 4 meaning it's sitting against the railgun. Now at a glance you'd probably just think, well that's a stupid choice, why would you go for that when you can go for the railgun? However, from playing around with it for a bit, it actually feels satisfying to use and probably could hold up on its own. Even when I was using the Commando, the FAL actually sticks out when competing against the SCAR, just like in the first game. My only real gripe with this gun though is the scope being that fucking horrendous ACOG scope like on the M14, and the fully automatic mode sounding like a bullpup, which is pretty weird. Like the single shot for this weapon sounds really powerful, and then you hear the fully auto mode and it sounds like a pea shooter. While there isn't really much of an issue in the sense of how good it is, it's definitely off-putting when you've got something like the SCAR. But hopefully Tripwire do approach it in the future and actually change it, because this is actually a really good gun. But finally we've got one last weapon to look at, and this weapon is rather unique in its design, and this gun is the HM Tech 501 Medi Rifle, and can I just say, this is a beautiful looking gun. However, the first time I used it, I encountered a skin glitch, and I was using the skin from the other Medic Assault Rifle, and it made this mess. On the rifle itself it looks fine, I guess, but when you scope in, you can't see shit. But unequipping the skin and restarting the game does obviously fix your issue, unless you just want to hide what's on your screen and just imagine it's all not there. Then this is the glitch that's definitely good for you. From an observation you could just say, oh this is another medic rifle, and that's a bit boring. But with this rifle it actually has a couple of differences. For a start, you can't actually upgrade it as it's already a tier 5, meaning that the only way to get around it is really having the best skills for Commando or Medic. And more importantly, the HM-Tech 501 has a grenade launcher attachment, meaning this weapon doesn't actually provide a healing dart. Instead, you have a max of 10 grenades which provide the same healing effects as the Medic grenade does. And I'll be honest, I think this is a really good trade-off, especially for when getting yourself out of a jam, as any stat boost you have for the Medic will apply on the grenade launcher as well. And again, with this being a Commando weapon, I can see myself using this more often as a sidearm, especially when the healing grenades come into play, because I can just pop a grenade on the floor, hopefully heal my team and myself, and then focus on the oncoming horde. Overall though, it's really hard to judge these weapons on a first impression, as they all feel really good. I'm not going to delve into the stats just yet though, because it's currently a beta and these things will change over time. But if they stay how they are, I could probably see myself coming back to these a fair bit. One more thing though regarding the new weapons is the prestige system, as they've now added the second tier of prestige into the game. Just like before, you'll get a ton of dosh, a new icon for your perk and a skin, while also bumping the XP bonus from 30 to 35. With the new skins though, you'll get skins for your tier 2 weapons, and from what I've seen so far, they're actually really nice to look at. And I'm quite keen on getting the Berserker to its next prestige now because it's the Crovel. The one thing I do find funny about this though is the Survivalist only has one weapon to its name, and that's the Freeze Thrower. And once you get it to second prestige, that's kind of it. It really does make you wonder what Tripwire are going to do to get around this, and from my guess we might actually see a new Survivalist weapon at Christmas, but who knows, we'll have to wait and see. I guess the last thing to discuss in regards to new content that's saying is the new map itself, Monster Ball. And again, compared to the other maps we've had this year, it's definitely hitting a new level of quality for these events. We've got various traps, a decently opened up map, various music for specific areas on the map, DJ Hans dancing the night away, and then there's the new music, and oh my god, these are some of the best tracks in the game. I'm always happy to see Tripwire add new music to the game because the original stuff starts to get a bit stale over time, and the new music really got me into it and it started getting my blood pumping. And honestly, with the design of the level, it really fits. With regards to the level itself though, we don't have anything really majorly groundbreaking in the style of objectives. Actually, all we have is the holdout areas again, which is a slight letdown, especially after the airship, as it introduced stuff like welding boxes and the water pump objectives. It's a shame we haven't really seen those again this time round. It would have been nice to have something like repair the speakers for DJ Hans and get a bit of dosh. What we have seen however is that they've started adding new achievements again in the style of Killing Floor 1. Near the start of the map you'll find a door that costs 10,000 dosh, and when you open said door, you'll first off get an achievement and a new part of the map will open up to you. It's not a massive addition, it's actually quite small, but it gives you a new route to kite Zeds around. One thing I'm surprised at with this new area though is that one part makes you jump over a hole, which I would have assumed that Zeds would fall into, but the pathing of the Zeds either just pushes them onto the bench or they just walk back round, and that's kind of sad really, but who knows, it might just be a bug at the moment. As for what's inside the room however, well, it's not much. It's a few books, a little lab, and then something regarding a potato. Now for anybody who likes the old Killing Floor, you're probably going to get this reference. And from looking at the blueprint on the wall, it looks like there's something inside this potato. Does this mean there's hidden lore in Killing Floor about a potato and that there's a potato fairy on the way? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Finally, before we round things up, there are new event skins that have been added to this update, and good god, Tripwire have really outdone themselves this time around. All of the Zeds look really good, and we've got some werewolves, mummies, fish pounds, fiery knights, and so much more. In fact, one of the Zeds even has a VR headset with the name Killing Floor Incursion slapped on it, and honestly that's a game I need to really talk about at some point. But most of all, what's amazing about this is that some of the Zeds actually have new animation sets to boot. For example, the Husks now open their chest instead of using a Husk launcher to shoot flames at you, and Hans will fold his arms to let the power of the ghost shoot his guns for him, giving that more spooky vibe. Overall though, Tripwire have just knocked this event out of the park this time round. There's so much attention to detail in areas that it just raises the expectations for what's going to come for Christmas, and also what's going to come for next year. I've really struggled to find any major gripes for this content update so far, but the only complaint I really have is something else regarding the matchmaking function. It's still shit. And not just that, somehow they've broken my server as well so I can't add any more workshop maps. If that's not a sign that local hosting is required in this game, I really don't know what is. Sorry, I've just got to end it off with this. But hey, that's just a theory. A potato theory. Man, I'm going to kill myself for that one.